Hey again, guys. I'm doing chapter 7 and 8 both today since I got busy yesterday and completely forgot to read chapter 7. So here is chapter 8. For a long time, it was just me, my mom, and dad, and my goldfish Ollie. I was 5 years old when I got him, and I had him for almost 2 years before he died. I guess that's old for a goldfish. Nobody knew Ollie's name but me, but that's okay. Ollie had been a prize for my carnival dad had taken me to, and I think Ollie's life was worse than mine. He lived in a small bowl on the table in my room. The bottom of the bowl was covered with tiny pink rocks, and a fake plastic log sat wedged in the rocks. I guess it was supposed to look like something from under the sea, but I don't think there are many lakes or oceans that really have rocks that color. Ollie spent all day long swimming around that small bowl, ducking through the fake log, and then swimming around again. He always swam in the same direction. The only time he changed his course was when Mom dropped a few grains of fish food into his bowl each morning and evening. I'd watch him gobble the food, then poop it out, then swim around and around once again. I felt sorry for him. At least I got to go outside, into the store, into school. Ollie just swam in a circle all day. I wondered if fish ever slept. But anytime I woke up in the middle of the night, Ollie was still swimming, his little mouth opening and closing like he was trying to say something. One day when I was about 7, Ollie jumped out of his bowl. I had been listening to music on the radio. Mom had finally figured out I liked the country western station, and I was in a good mood. The music was sounding orangey and yellowish as I listened, and the faint whiff of lemons seemed to surround me. I felt real mellow as I watched Ollie do his thing round and round his bowl. But suddenly, for no reason I could figure, Ollie drove down to the bottom of his bowl, rushed to the top, and hurled himself right out of the bowl. He landed on the table. He gasped and flopped, and I'm sure he was surprised he couldn't breathe. His eyes bulged, and the gills on his side pulsed with effort. I didn't know what to do. He'd die without water really fast, so I screamed. Mom was downstairs, or maybe outside getting the mail, but she didn't come right away. I screamed again, louder. I cried out. I yelled. I screeched. Ollie continued to flop and gasp, looking more desperate. Ollie needed water. I howled once more, but Mom didn't come running. Where could she be? I knew I had to do something, so I reached over to the table and stretched out my arm. I could barely touch Ollie's bowl. I figured if I could get the fish wet, at least a little bit, I might be able to save him. I hooked my fingers on the edge of the fish bowl and I pulled. Water splashed everywhere, all over the table, the carpet, me, and Ollie. He seemed to flop a little less for a second or two, and I kept wailing. Finally, I heard my mother thundering up the stairs. When she came through the door, she took one look at the mess and the dying goldfish and shouted, Melody, what have you done? Why did you knock over the fish bowl? Don't you know a fish can't live without water? Of course I knew that. I'm not stupid. Why did she think I'd been screeching and calling for her? She scurried over to the mess, scooped up Ollie, and gently placed him back in the bowl. Then she ran to the bathroom and I heard her running water, but I knew it was too late. Either because of the time out of the bowl or because the bathroom water wasn't the right temperature, Ollie didn't survive. Mom came back in and scolded me once more. Your goldfish didn't make it, Melody. I don't get it. Why would you do that to the poor little fish? He was happy in his little world. I wondered maybe if Ollie wasn't so happy after all. Maybe he was sick and tired of that bowl and that log and that circle. Maybe he just couldn't take it anymore. I feel like that sometimes. There was no way I could explain to Mom what had happened. I really had tried to save Ollie's life. I just looked away from Mom. She was angry, and I was too. If she hadn't been so slow, Ollie might have made it. I didn't want her to see me cry. She cleaned up the mess with a sigh and left me with my music in an empty spot on my table. The colors had vanished. It was a long time before I was ready for another pet, but on my 8th birthday, my father bought a big box into the house. He seemed to have trouble holding on to it. When he set it on the floor in front of me, out exploded a flash of wiggling gold fun. A puppy! A golden retriever puppy! I shrieked and kicked with joy. A puppy! The clumsy little dog raced around the room, sniffing in every corner. I watched her every move, loving her right away. After exploring every table leg and piece of furniture, the puppy stopped, made sure all of us were watching, then squatted and peed right on the carpet. Mom yelled, but only a little. That's when she knew the dog. That's when the dog knew she was in charge. She checked out Dad's bare toes, but she stayed away from Mom, who was trying to soak the spot out of the rug with paper towels and that spray stuff she uses in the kitchen. Finally, the puppy circled my wheelchair around and around, like she was trying to figure it out. She sniffed it, sniffed my legs and feet, looked at me for a minute, then jumped right up onto my lap like she'd done it a million times. I barely breathed, not wanting to disturb her. Then, wow, 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 she turned around 3 times and made herself comfortable. I think she made a noise like a sigh of satisfaction. I know I did. I stroked her soft back and head as gently as I could. I was the one who named her. Mom and Dad kept suggesting names like Fuzzy and Coffee, but I knew as soon as I saw her what her name should be. I pointed to the bowl on the table, which held my most favorite candies, butterscotch caramel. They're soft enough to melt in my mouth, so I didn't have to chew. And oh, are they delicious. You want to call our candy? Dad asked. I shook my head no, gently, so the sleeping puppy wouldn't wake. Caramel? My mom asked. I shook my head once more. Why don't we just call her Stinky? Dad suggested with a grin. Mom and I glared at him. I continued to point to the candy dish. Finally, Mom said, I know, you want to call her Butterscotch. I wanted to shriek, but I forced myself to stay calm. I tried real hard not to do anything that would knock the puppy off my lap. Ugh, I said softly as I continued to stroke the dog's silky fur. I didn't know that anything could be so soft, and she was all mine. She was the best birthday. It was the best birthday I ever had. Butterscotch sleeps at the foot of my bed every night. It's like she read the book on what a great dog ought to do. Bark only when a stranger is at the door, never pee or poop in the house. She got over that puppy stuff, and keep Melody happy. Butterscotch just Butterscotch doesn't care when I can't talk to her. She knows I love her. She just gets it. One day, a few months after I got her, I fell out of my wheelchair. It happens. Mom had given me lunch, taken me to the toilet, and wheeled me back into my room. Butterscotch trotted behind, never in the way, just close by me at all time. Mom popped in a DVD for me and made sure my hands were properly positioned so I could rewind and fast forward the film. She didn't notice my seatbelt wasn't fastened, and neither did I. She traveled up and down the stairs doing several loads of laundry. I'm awfully messy. And I guess she had started fixing dinner. The rich aroma of simmering tomato sauce floated up the stairs. Mom knows I love spaghetti. She peeked her head in on to check on me and said, I'm going to lie down for a couple minutes, Melody. Are you okay for a few? I nodded and pointed my arm toward the door to tell her to go. My movie was getting good anyway. Butterscotch sat curled next to my chair. She'd outgrown my lap. So Mom blew me a kiss and closed the door. I was watching something I'd seen a million times, The Wizard of Oz. I think most people in the world can quote sections of that movie, no extra brain required, because it's one of the movies that gets played over and over again on cable channels. But I know every single word in it. I know what Dorothy will say before she opens her mouth. I don't think we're in Kansas anymore, Toto. It makes me smile. I've never been to Kansas or Oz or anywhere more than a few miles away from home. Even though I knew it was coming, when the movie got to the part where the Tin Man does that stiff little dance to the music of If I Only Had a Heart, I cracked up. I laughed so hard, I jerked forward in my chair and found myself face down on the floor. Butterscotch jumped up immediately, sniffing me and making sure I wasn't hurt. I was fine, but I couldn't get back up in my chair. Worse, I was going to miss the part where the cowardly lion gets smacked on the nose by Dorothy. I wonder how long Mom's nap will last. I didn't scream like that time Ollie had jumped out of the bowl. I wasn't upset, just a little uncomfortable. I tried to flip over, but I couldn't from the position I had landed in. If I could have seen the television from where I had fallen, I might have been okay on the floor for a little while. Butterscotch makes a great pillow. But Butterscotch went to the closed door and scratched. I could hear her claws ripping at the wood. Dad wouldn't be happy when he saw that. But Mom didn't come. So Butterscotch barked, first a couple tentative yips, then louder and more urgent. Finally, she jumped up and threw her whole body against the door, making loud thuds. She barked, then thud, barked, then thud. Mom couldn't ignore all that racket. I'm sure it was only a few minutes, but it seemed like longer. Mom came to the door looking groggy. Her hair was all messed up. What's going on in there? She began. Then she saw me. Oh, Melody, baby, are you okay? She ran to me, sat down on the floor, and lifted me onto her lap. She checked everything, my arms and legs, my back, my face, my scalp, even my tongue. I wanted to tell her I was fine. All she needed to do was put me back in my chair, but she had to do the mom thing and double check. Butterscotch, you're a good girl, she said as she petted the dog and hugged me tight. Doubles on the food tonight. I'm sure Butterscotch would have preferred a nice thick bone instead, but she couldn't talk either. So both my dog and I went So both my dog and I get what they give us. Mom carefully put me back in my chair and made sure my seatbelt was latched correctly. Butterscotch curled up right in front of me, making sure, I guess, that if I slid out, she'd be there to soften the fall. That dog was amazing. Mom restarted the video from the beginning, but somehow that yellow brick road had lost some of its magic glow. Nobody really guessed wishes granted by the Great Oz. As I watched, I wondered if I were blown to Oz with my dog, what we would ask the wizard for. Brains? I've got plenty. Courage? Butterscotch is scared of nothing. A heart? We've got lots of heart, me and my pup. So what would I ask for? I'd like to sing like the Cowardly Lion and dance like the Tin Man. Neither of them did those things very well, but that would be good enough for me.